sweat. Yo, we on tonight. Give it up again for Commandant General Hana, the hardest working man in Israel. He gonna be on shortly. Tonight. We're gonna have a fish fry, we're gonna have a barbecue, we're gonna have a cookout, you know what I mean? Right? With our guest tonight, Asher Rabbi. But first we definitely want to big up everybody who inside. Definitely Commandant General Hana, he gonna be on shortly. General Haas inside. Musa in Christ, the Hardy General inside supporting. Big up General Haas.
Hey, what's going on, Ward?
Right. We have Captain Kahan checking in from hell. Yeah, I mean. Musa in Christ.
What's up, Cap?
We have Florida in. Captain Shawoya and the army down there. All right. And we have also the guest tonight, the so-called rabbi. This guy. Yeah. This guy. I'm gonna have to call him this guy because tonight this guy is going to tell us why the Proud Boys make sense. Why we should even consider them, and why is it that we should have respect for them. He's gonna have to defend his stance because he said before he was a so-called Proud Boy. He stood on their banner, he stood on their platform, and he gonna have to defend all the mess the Proud Boys did and got themselves into. He could defend it however he want. He could defend it with cotton wool, he could defend it with the Bible, he could defend it with a straw. But whatever it is, he gonna have to defend that yellow and black, organization of criminals called the Proud Boys. Right. All right. So Asher, you're gonna be in the hot seat tonight. You're gonna definitely be in the hot seat tonight. I want you to explain to us straight off the break why we should even respect this white supremacist organization called the Proud Boys.
It's hard to consider an organization white supremacist when it's made up of blacks, Hispanics, Asians. I'd like to know how many whites the black Hebrew Israelites
the black Hebrew Israelites have no whites in here. We have absolutely no whites in here.
You are black supremacists.
I'm not black Hebrew Israelites. That's a stupid name that was put on as a catch-all phrase, almost as stupid as Africa being, that's Africa with disregarding all the countries and languages in there. You understand? We're not black Hebrew Israelites.
No matter what
we are the real Jews of the Bible under command of the Israelite School of UPK. Now, you said
boys don't walk around.
The organization is not white supremacist because they have blacks in there and all that type of stuff. America is white supremacist, right? The Puritans were white supremacists. The founding fathers were white supremacists. And guess what? They had black people cooking in the goddamn kitchens. They had black people picking their cotton. They had black people tending to their horses. They had black people fighting in their wars, and they were white supremacists. So having black people in your organization does not disqualify you from being a white supremacist group. White supremacy is not the makeup of your group. White supremacy is not the makeup of your
100 years ago.
Listen, Asher, you in the den now, Asher. You're gonna wait till I done talk.
Well, you have to let me talk.
I watch you and your brothers destroy the Capitol, and nobody went to jail, nobody got shot, nobody got treated like they were black because there was an organization of white supremacists. So right now, when bad man,
I just can't let you.
Your goddamn mouth, I'll shut it for you. All right. So now, white supremacy is not the makeup of an organization, but the ideology of the organization. For instance, the Christian church is white supremacist. The Christian church is absolutely white supremacist. It's filled with black people, but they worship a white man and white ideals and white ideologies. So the makeup, the composition of something does not dictate the ideology of that same entity. So again, I want you to explain to me why this white supremacist organization called the Proud Boys we should respect. When you are a bunch of criminals and murderers. You murdered innocent people in that Capitol riot. And you broke all the laws.
You have to let me speak here. Okay.
Well, no, come on with it. Come on with it, Asher. Quickly.
So, well, There's a lot that I have to respond to. There's many inaccuracies that you brought up. It's interesting that we live at a time that you have to remind people that they're white supremacists and convince them of that theory, because the average white person does not claim to be a white supremacist. If you ask someone 200 years ago if they thought white people were supreme, of course they would tell you yes. This is why the
devil will never admit to being the devil. The devil would never admit
you
to
have
being
to let
the
me
devil.
speak, please.
Listen, John Gotti didn't ever admit to being a goddamn criminal. He had to be caught. Donald Trump will not admit to being a racist. Admitting to being a white supremacist is irrelevant. Your actions is what speaks. You stormed the goddamn Capitol, you broke laws, you destroyed property, and you murdered people, whether directly or indirectly. I want you to answer to that. Don't try to skate around.
You have to let me speak. I'm just going to end this interview right now.
I need you to listen. Don't run.
You're going to have to let me speak.
Well, okay. Listen, answer. Tell me why you are such an organization of criminals.
Okay. What kind of question is that? Do you want me to? Do you
So
want to have an actual dialogue?
If I could, actually, if I could.
No. Wait,
the reason he is
one person
saying,
at a time. I'm not going to let someone else hop in.
Okay. No.
You ain't going to dictate nothing.
Well,
not that I'm going. I'm going to let you speak.
You asked me to show up.
Yeah. The reason he is saying what he is saying is because things and laws are broken at that Capitol.
Okay.
And when so-called quote-unquote black people riot, they was labeled certain such and such and labeled criminals and was put in jail directly. Now, at that riot in the Capitol building, people died at the hands of the men who led the charge.
That's inaccurate.
For that crime.
That's inaccurate.
So we want. So you tell me that cop didn't die?
Officer Sipnick. Wait, no, okay. He did not.
Okay.
It just came out this week that this was a story that was made up by the New York Times. Yes, that officer died, but not because he was hit on the head with anything. He had some allergic reaction to the pepper spray that his own officer.
Why did they have pepper spray, Asher?
Wait.
Why did they have pepper spray, Asher?
You keep moving the goal here. Okay.
No, I'm not.
The goal was
why did they have
all
pepper spray?
Proud Boys murderers. That's one thing.
Why did they have pepper spray, Asher?
When there's riots every night, virtually every night.
But he didn't die every other night.
Hold on one second.
Well, he didn't die every other night. He died when that white supremacist organization stormed the Capitol. Black Lives Matter didn't storm the Capitol. And pepper spray never killed anybody black. Okay. I wish we had pepper spray in slavery. We might have got free sooner. If pepper spray killing people.
Are you done?
No, I can keep going, you know. I can keep going.
You know, I'm about to end this interview because I think you're scared to let me speak. Because every time I get a sentence out,
I'm scared to let no criminal speak. I need you to come and defend it. I need you to defend this thing all the way.
Well, the charges have to be accurate.
The charges are accurate. Okay. Somebody died in the commission of a crime, and you are not there to answer it. And you claim to represent the Jewish faith. That's not very Jewish to stand by and watch innocent people die, right?
If I could, Captain Michelle.
No, just one person at a time.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all,
go ahead, Asher.
What happened in the Capitol was not organized by Proud Boys. That's one. It was organized by Oath Keepers and 3%ers. Were there Proud Boys there? Sure. I was at the Capitol. Hello?
Barack.
What, Akim?
So what, General?
You can continue on, Asher.
Sure. Well, I was actually at the Capitol. I didn't go inside the Capitol building, but alongside me were Hispanic, Asians, blacks. This was not a Proud Boy event. So to call those criminals and to reiterate the lie that the news reported, that after being fact-checked, they had to acknowledge that there was never a fire extinguisher involved when Officer Sicknick died, that they had to take that back. It shows that you guys are real puppets of the media. You believe what they tell you. Now, compare that to the virtually hundreds of people who have died in the last 6 months with rioting under Black Lives Matter, under the banner of Black Lives Matter.
What happened? You are lying. Hundreds of people didn't die
under the banner of Black Lives Matter,
Hundreds
and
of people
Antifa
have died at the hands of white supremacy, white supremacist cops, white supremacist National Guard, white
Proud Boys are not white supremacists,
police, and white supremacist rioters like you. Right? That shooter in Kenosha was a white boy killing other white people. That wasn't black people doing that. Right? Darren Wilson, who murdered Michael Brown, that wasn't black people. Those people you represent, who you so proudly represent and try to make us say, yes, we should convert and join you. Those people have committed atrocities.
Are you conflicting white people with Proud Boys?
Atrocities, and you skate around it. You want to say, no, he didn't die from a fire extinguisher, but he died from a pepper spray. He's dead, and it's because of the riots. When are you going to claim? When are you going to know?
What do the riots have to do with Proud Boys?
What happened to it? If you
Proud Boys
wasn't
as an
rioting,
organization exists.
If you was not rioting, he would not have died. That's what it is.
Can I say something?
Yes,
you're getting very emotional. You guys are very emotional. You know, for people who claim to be very masculine. I'm just saying. You've been emoting for the last 20 minutes.
I sent you a text. See if you can pull that text up.
Yes, sir.
So what I want to know is this, Asher. You made a comment. You said
you guys are going to have to ask another question. I mean, this is silly. If you guys want to hop into scripture, and if you would like me to dismember your theology, I'd be happy to do it. But to call me a criminal from the outset with inaccuracies that have been disproven, they've been debunked.
But I mean, look up. Called you a criminal, Asher. Nobody
called me a criminal.
And this is you could go back
and if I could, Mashak, if I could, Asher, just explain this to me. Are you
one
saying,
question at a time, please? One question.
Yeah, it's the same question. I'm just trying to make it a little clearer. Like,
ask a different question.
Are you saying that Officer, what's his name, Sitnick?
Sitnick. All right.
Yeah. Are you saying that because he died from pepper spray from another officer during the
he had an allergic reaction?
Right. He had an allergic reaction to pepper spray that was sprayed by another officer, one of his own officers, right, at the Capitol during this insurrection. So
it was not an insurrection, please. It's
well,
very peaceful compared to the riots that we saw.
You say
for
it was,
George Floyd.
We don't have to debate whether it was. Okay, you think it was not a riot, insurrection. I think it was an insurrection. My question is simple.
Do you believe everything the media says?
But I'm telling you, I think it's an insurrection, regardless of what the media said. But that's just my opinion. My question to you is simple. Officer Sitnick died from an allergic reaction to pepper spray that was sprayed by his own officers. Now, what I'm saying to you is, because this was an event, however you want to call it, at the Capitol, are you saying that the participants that were at the Capitol that caused the officers to spray the pepper spray, you can go full screen again, Machop, that caused that pepper spray to be sprayed, are you saying that those people that were at the Capitol, that breached the Capitol, that fought with police officers, that beat police officers, those people that were there who were part of this protest that turned into what I believe an insurrection, you don't, but I understand it. Are you saying that they are not culpable for Officer Sitnick's death?
Correct. And I'm also saying that
before you go on,
you don't even have to ask me this question. This was not a Proud Boy event. The Proud Boys exist to protect conservative or Trump supporters from the left-wing mob. We are a reactionary movement. We weren't spearheading anything to overthrow any capital or any government, which is what the left-wing media would like you to believe.
But you do admit that Proud Boys did indeed enter into the Capitol. Did they not?
Antifa also entered into the Capitol.
Well, let's talk about the Proud Boys since you're a Proud Boy.
Sure. Okay.
Proud Boys did enter the Capitol, did they not?
Sure.
And they and that's against the law, is it not?
First of all,
it's a simple question.
I don't know what the question is. It's obviously
the question is simple.
It's obviously against the law. Well, just like Black Hebrew Israelites break the law as well.
But listen,
now, I don't expect you to answer for every action committed by another Black Hebrew. Hold on one second. Just let me speak, please.
Go ahead, Asher. Go ahead, please.
I don't expect you to answer for every action committed by every Black Hebrew, especially when it's not done under the auspices of Black Hebrew Israelites. Now, being that this was not a Proud Boy event, yes, Proud Boys are conservative, so we're going to be found all over the conservative world and conservative rallies and on and on. But why are you asking me to in some way respond for how conservatives behaved at the Capitol, which I endorse, by the way. I endorse not as a Proud Boy, but as a biblical
here's why.
A conservative who adheres to biblical values.
Here's
rising up against tyranny. I support 100%. We have a command to burn the evil from amongst our midst. This is in our Torah. Okay. Now, for some reason,
but does that include breaking the law and entering in the Capitol?
Oh, yes. You think no? Wait. You make no distinction between man-made law and biblical law?
I'm asking a simple
question. Of course,
question.
you make a distinction. So why do you expect me not to make a distinction? Only because something is a law
now you're doing
does not make it ethical. Do you understand that?
I'm asking you a simple question.
It's legal for a woman to have an abortion. Is it biblically legal for her to have an abortion?
Here's what I'm asking you.
Okay, no, wait. I mean, please.
Here's what I'm asking.
Ask me questions that apply to you as well. Because
listen, I'm asking.
So far, you guys don't sound very sharp.
I'm asking a simple question, Asher. Mm-hmm. It's a very simple question, and embellish me for a moment because I believe that what I'm asking you will lead to a very big blind spot in believers of Jewish law. And I know I'm going a little roundabout way, but bear with me for a second with these simple questions. Okay. And I promise you, I will make my position very clear, and you'll be able to clearly respond. Okay.
Sure.
According to biblical law and according to man's law, the laws of America, it is illegal to invade the Capitol.
Huh? What are you talking about?
I'm talking
according to biblical law. Please tell me what verse does it say that man's law supersedes God's law? Please.
I didn't say it superseded it.
You said according to biblical law, it's illegal, i.e., I guess against biblical law to invade a capital.
Yeah, meaning it's against biblical law to break the laws of the land. That's what it's against the law. That's my point. Now, if you might disagree with that, but that's still not the point. The point is that they broke the law. They broke, let's say, man's law when they went into that Capitol. You agree on that, okay? Sure. Which was illegal. You agree that some of those were members of the Proud Boys.
Absolutely.
Okay, then. Now, help me to understand this. Then, for all the thousands, make that tens of thousands of black men who are in prison by proxy of events that have taken place where they were there, not necessarily involved or even breaking the law, but because they were a part of the event, they are sitting in prison now, many of them doing life in prison for all kinds of crimes because they were there, because they were at the present while it took place.
Please let me respond. Please let me respond.
Please respond to that.
So anyone who watches, even the left-wing media, would know that to date, 350 people who actually went into the Capitol building are in jail now, including Proud Boys, are in jail now. In jail. Not people who went past the barriers that were knocked down already. I mean, there were old ladies there. Okay, fine. They didn't really break the law. Okay, they were gathering. Wait, hold on. They were gathering. This is why I'm not in jail. This is why thousands of people who went past the boundaries that were already knocked down, there was a clause that protected them as a freedom of assembly, but they didn't go inside the building. The people who went inside the building, virtually everyone who was described on video was arrested.
Including members of the Proud Boys.
Absolutely. Friends of mine. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, right. Sure. Right. Now compare that to what blacks get away with during the riots of George Floyd, where whites were killed targeted because they were white. So it was an act of black supremacy. Now we don't see anything like that.
I don't believe any of that.
Under the guise of conservatives.
None of that
conservatives
was true.
don't walk around targeting minorities. Conservatives are made up.
Actually, none of that is true. None of that.
Please
listen. We disagree.
Okay,
can't we disagree? You disagree with my interpretation.
Okay,
you thought my interpretation was media bound.
I let you speak.
What you said, my interpretation was bent by the media, right?
Right.
So I'm saying your interpretation of what happened with blacks was also bent by the media. Here's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not talking about the people that were
I thought it was my turn to respond, but go ahead.
I'm gonna give it back to you. Believe me.
Sure.
I'm not talking about those that were outside like yourself who did nothing. I'm talking specifically about the Proud Boys who went inside the Capitol illegally, who were part of the insurrection, what I call the insurrection, okay, who caused fellow police officers to spray pepper spray in an attempt to gain control of the crowd that caused the allergic reaction in Sicknick, that caused Sicknick to die. Aren't those?
So we're changing the goal. First, you called it murder, or your brother called it murder, right?
My question is simple. Asher, you ain't got to cut me off. I'm gonna give it to you right now. Okay. My question is simple. According to American law, aren't they murderers, man?
No.
So they're not murderers. So
according to American law, perhaps you don't know American law. That doesn't even fall under the guise of manslaughter.
It actually does, and you're going to see them be charged with it. Okay, you're about to see many of them charged with it.
It's not going to happen because it doesn't make sense. It's like if a cop unleashes a dog towards you who stole something, but the dog turns around and attacks him. They're going to charge the person who stole something with that attack. I mean,
it happens every day in America to black people, Asher. I know you don't believe it, but it happens.
I don't believe it.
I know because of the same media brainwashing you accuse us of loving is what you love, which is which promotes black people as all being criminals. But I have
a protected minority.
I have friends and relatives who are in prison right now, Asher.
Okay,
they're in prison right now
for acts
just like that. For acts just like that. Which, by the way,
non-violently storming the Capitol. Okay.
For acts where police officers were injured or killed. Police officers were injured or killed in many cases by their own weapons or their own devices in the midst of trying to apprehend a criminal. That criminal has been charged, with those crimes and have gone to prison. It's
quite ridiculous.
Thousands of times a day.
So it's quite ridiculous for you to speak.
Thousands of times a day. So
it's quite ridiculous for you to speak in behalf of blacks like you're the victims here. Well, please let me speak.
That means that the Proud Boys are murderers. You got the floor. Go ahead.
All right.
And I'm gonna let you in after that, Khan, if you could.
It's quite ridiculous for you to speak like a victim, being a black man in America, when 13% of the population, i.e., black males in America, are responsible for 60% of the murders. You're the victims? No, the white man is the victim. And I'm not even white. I'm Jewish and I'm Hispanic. I guess I'm a double minority. Okay.
Wait a minute.
No. Please. Don't play the victim here. Okay. You are a protected minority by the media. Please acknowledge that. This is why when blacks attacked Jews in New Jersey in that convenience store and they murdered Jews, nothing happened. As a matter of fact, we just heard your president. Hold on, please let me speak, man.
Go ahead. Okay. Now you brought up two issues. I want to respond to those issues.
Yeah, but you could respond when I'm done with my time. Just let me speak, please. Just let me talk, bro. Okay, I'm gonna have to end this.
You're calling black people murderers.
It has to be equal.
Who has murdered more black people?
You had 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes to talk.
Who has murdered more black people than white people, Asher? We're the victims, man. We're the victims of your white supremacy.
Do you disagree with that statistic? You're telling that 13% of the population is responsible for 60% of the murders. Hold on 1 second.
You're slaughtering us in 10,000.
You are a protected minority.
Asher,
you're going to have to let me speak.
Slaughtering us all over this country.
It doesn't look well for you guys when you don't let your guests speak.
I'm going to let you in.
Wait, is it that you're scared?
You made two good points.
Okay, let me finish.
And I deserve to respond to those points.
I'm responding to your points.
You have murdered all over the. Listen,
I'm responding to your points.
You want black people to become converts to Judaism. Do you not? You believe that black people should convert to Judaism and be accepted.
I'm not going to allow you to change the topic.
But I'm not changing
you. Oh, no, you're definitely changing the topic.
I'm not changing it.
Because my words are cutting deep.
All I'm saying is you want us to convert to Judaism and be accepted.
I want everybody to convert to Judaism.
Jew, and I understand that. But you're asking us to convert to Judaism, to a religion
and I finish my rebuttal. Please let me finish my rebuttal.
Has historically murdered us all across this country and in the Caribbean. Like you're acting like you're the victim when white people, especially white Jews,
I'm not acting like the victim.
Oppressed, and you just said that white people are the victim.
Right.
When white people,
first of all, I'm not a white person. White people are the victims under the hands of blacks regarding murder and theft and even rape.
Done so much damage to black people. You got the floor, Asher. Go ahead.
Okay. You are a protected minority. It's hard to believe what's
protected from who?
Wait, hold on one second. Protected from the media, protected from the police. Okay.
Wait a
president.
Wait a minute.
There we go.
No
protected by the police, absolutely.
We are protected from the police.
For sure. You know, last year, more whites are killed.
Asher, you telling me
per capita.
We are protected from the police?
Yes. More unarmed whites are killed per capita by policemen than unarmed blacks.
It's a lie, the videotapes we see of white police officers murdering us. Is that a lie? Is it a lie? Is it a lie? Let me ask you this, Asher.
Can you give me an example? Was George Floyd murdered?
Listen, let me give you a better
Michael Brown murdered?
Let me give you a better example. Is it a myth that whites, Jews, have had blacks tormented and tortured in Crown Heights, pushed out of their homes? Is it a myth? Is it a myth that they took over that neighborhood, had armed security, took over those buildings, pushed those people?
Were you not familiar with the Crown Heights? Wait, the Crown Heights riots. Crown Heights in Brooklyn. Right. The riots were blacks attacking Jews. Okay?
Blacks were not attacking Jews.
Absolutely.
One Jew got attacked.
It was called the Crown Heights riots, not because Jews were rioting, but because blacks were rioting against Jews. Okay,
we were rioting.
Blacks were the violent ones there.
We did not get violent against Jews. One Jew got retribution, and Asher, you know that was because of how white supremacist white Jews are. He ran over 2 babies on a bicycle. The ambulance came and took a grown, healthy man to the hospital and left those poor black babies on the ground to die.
So what does that have to do with Jews?
That's the whites. Yes.
A Jew accidentally runs someone over, and it's an act of white supremacy?
Yeah, no. The running the babies over was not an act of white supremacy. I'm not saying that. Okay,
so that's what sparked the riots.
The act of white supremacy, Asher, was when the ambulance came and refused to take the 2 black children that he had just run over to the hospital. Instead, they took him to the hospital, who had not even injured.
Jews were the biggest supporters of the civil rights movement. They marched alongside. But to say that Jews are in any way white supremacists or have
the subject from Crown Heights.
I'm not. Crown Heights is a Jewish community. Okay, you're saying that Jews are white supremacists.
Isn't it true that the ambulance took the white Jew instead of the 2 children that he ran over? Isn't that true, Asher?
I don't know.
I do.
This is what you're saying. Okay. Well, this happened over 25 years ago. Okay.
Listen, that's one act. And listen, if it happened,
that's not an act of white supremacy.
If it happened in the hands of Jews 100 years ago, it's still an act of white supremacy.
But it's
and not only is it an act of white supremacy, it's an act of such heinous disregard for another race's life. And
so
Asher, now listen, Asher,
is your point that Jews are white supremacists?
You cannot act, Asher, like Jews do not go into black neighborhoods, separate themselves in black neighborhoods, build their economics, and use their intimidation to take over black neighborhoods and to gobble up the real estate and everything in that neighborhood. You know that to be true. You know that same incident you talked about in New Jersey. That was a black man that went to some fake Israelite temple and affiliated himself with that temple.
2 events. There was one in Muncie as well that a Jew was killed.
And him and his woman went off and fired into that Jewish deli. They ended up trying to flee, But what was missed in the whole scenario, it was wrong what he did. We condemned it ourselves. Nobody needs to lay a hand on any white Jews. But
can you find it?
deny.
Can you find a similar example? You're gonna have to let me speak. Can you find a similar example of a Jew doing that to a black person? You have no example.
You cannot deny that white Jews practice complete racism against blacks in the neighborhoods that they move into, that they separate themselves in those neighborhoods. And I have a whole lot of examples that we can get into after you respond to that. Okay. You cannot say.
Please let me respond. Please let me respond. Okay. First of all, okay.
I gotta go deal with a quick emergency. Go ahead, let Asher respond.
Hold on 1 second. Okay.
Before y'all jump in. No, go ahead, Asher. I'll be back.
It's interesting how you mentioned 2 acts where blacks killed Jews and not 1 act where a Jew killed a black intentionally. Okay. What he claims that the ambulance did, I have no knowledge of that. But to say that Jews targeted blacks, he acknowledged that the Jew accidentally running the child over wasn't an act of white supremacy. Now, it's true that Jews stick with their own, but their own are not people of white skin by the simple fact that people could convert to Judaism. If you go to Crown Heights today, you'll find black individuals who converted to Judaism. However, you won't accept a white individual who wants to join your organization, but we are the supremacists. Right? We have to use equal scales here for this to be a fruitful conversation. I'm extending an olive branch to not just blacks, Asians, whoever wants to join my religion, and even the organization I belong to called Proud Boys. There's an olive branch being extended. However, you don't show us the same courtesy. That means because you are black supremacists. The hatred is on your end. I have no hatred towards you. But your theology believes that Esau was the first diabolical white man. And what made him diabolical was the lack of melanin he had in the system. Now, we're the irrational bigots. I'm trying to absorb you into my ideology, but you don't want nothing to do with Jews or Proud Boys because we disgust you.
If I could, Asher?
Sure, go ahead.
Asher, you don't mind. What synagogue do you worship at?
I go to Young Israel.
Young Israel. That's the name of the synagogue?
Correct. It's a chain of synagogues.
Do you believe the election was okay? Do you believe the election was stolen?
If I could, before you go into that,
yes, sir.
Because Asher said something that was so ridiculous, I can't even quantify it. It was so silly and ridiculous. Asher, you had the nerve to say you're extending an olive branch to all people, correct? And you believe, and you're opening the door for all people to come in and convert to being Jews, correct?
Correct.
Wait, hold on. Let me ask you a question.
I want you to come in and embrace our value system. In other words,
understand.
Okay, so it's anyone who will make themselves spiritually docile, not our enemies. Correct.
Now, Asher, are you saying you want us to join the white supremacist Jews who are bombing and killing the Palestinians every day? Is that what you want us to join? You want us to join a white supremacist organization like the white Jews who are bombing and killing the Palestinians only because of their ethnicity?
No.
So you're saying don't join them? Are you saying don't join them?
There's a distinction between Zionists who are not necessarily religious and Orthodox Judaism, which believes in Torah, and we even believe in an oral law. We believe in biblical values. The average Zionist is not even religious. Now, do I take the side of the Palestinians? Absolutely not. However, please make a distinction between a Zionist and a Torah-keeping Jew. Like you make a distinction between left-wing blacks and religious blacks, correct?
So you're saying if blacks convert to Judaism, they will not ever have to worry about falling under the oppression that's being portrayed to the Palestinians. Even though they'll be embracing the same white Jewish law, they will not be under that type of oppression. They'll be able to go to Israel. They'll be beloved in Israel. They won't have anything to worry about When meanwhile, in Israel right now, both secular and religious white Jews are taking over Palestinian lands, treating Ethiopians like they are monkeys, destroying all types of structure of anybody who is not. Bear with me a second, Mashak. I'll come back to that. Destroying all type of infrastructure of anybody that's not them, killing Palestinians by the boatload over there. You're not even giving them vaccines over there. Now, are you saying that if blacks convert to Judaism, that they won't become a part of that same white supremacy? First of all, do you even recognize that the state of Israel is operating as a white supremacist organization? Or I'll say this: as
you have to deal one question at a time, please. One question at a time.
It's all the same question. Are you saying they're not operating as a Jewish supremacist organization?
I'm making a distinction between religious Jewry and secular Jews. The whole Zionist movement was initially a secular movement made by ex-Bolshevik Jews. Had nothing to do.
True.
It is true.
You know that's not true.
Herzl was an atheist. Golda Meir was also an atheist.
The Zionist movement, was made by Jews who thoroughly believed in the state of Israel because they believed that they were the Jews and that Israel should be established so that they could follow.
So you don't know Zionist history. They considered establishing their homeland in Uganda.
So are you saying the Zionists are the only Russia? Are the Zionists the only ones oppressing the Palestinians?
No.
That are killing so many Palestinians?
You're saying because I'm a religious Jew, I in some way am responsible, or
aren't you saying
endorse
Israeli
policy? Wait,
you're saying we should convert to the same religion, are you not?
So it's similar with you having a Muslim on the show and having him endorse or respond to everything Iran has to say on a certain issue, or Afghanistan has to say on a certain issue, when these are also Muslim republic or Islamic republics. Please, let's deal with the religion.
Yeah, let's deal with that.
Okay, all right. I'm encouraging you not to become a Zionist or to move to Israel, although you could do that by converting. That shows how white supremacists they really are. As a matter of fact,
oppressed like the Ethiopians.
So Ben Ami, Ben Yisrael,
right,
moved his whole community to Dimona, Israel, and as of today, they're fighting alongside white Israeli soldiers in the Palestinian lands, killing terrorists. Okay,
you know why?
So as a policy,
do you know why?
As a policy, white supremacy does not exist in Israel as a policy.
Wait a minute. White supremacy does not exist in Israel as a policy. On paper, it doesn't exist. It's not as a legal policy. It doesn't.
Just like I don't believe all blacks,
but it exists.
Black supremacists, but I believe that you are black supremacists.
You know that it exists. But come on, Asher. You know it exists in everyday life. You know that those Palestinians are over there under complete racism by white Jews.
Me encouraging you to consider becoming a Torah-keeping Jew.
I'm glad you asked. Here's what it has to do with. You are asking black people to convert to the same white supremacist religion that is killing and preying on people all over the world. You're asking us to convert to the same religion.
Israel is a secular country. Religious Jews have nothing to do with Palestinians being killed.
That is so, Asher. You are being ingenuous.
All right.
You are being.
So then we can't disagree. Okay. We can't speak on things.
I've been to Israel many times. Okay. The entire country is influenced by Jewish law. The entire country. You have settlers. I mean, running roughshod over Palestinians and taking over the lands and setting up settlements illegally against the government law. And it is, and they get no repercussions for it. Palestinians are being killed over there, starved over there. The government is stopping them from. And you want us
You are a victim of left-wing media, also known as Hollywood.
None of this is going on? Are you saying none of this is going on, Asher? Is that what you're trying to say? None of this is going on? Asher, let me ask you a question. Why should black people convert to Judaism, even your form of Judaism, when black people have suffered horrific slavery under white Jews who were supposed to understand the Torah?
That's right.
We're talking about white Jews who sat there and had, Passover Seder about the children of Israel being freed from Egypt and drinking the wine while having slaves in slave quarters, while serving, while
how far
Passover.
Are you willing to go back? Okay, because blacks also had, until today, blacks also have other blacks as slaves in Africa.
But wait a minute, we only talking about
you're only talking about Jews, and you're speaking about Jews
your religion
from over 70 years ago, because no Jew alive today has a slave, but blacks alive today do have slaves in other countries. There's no country in the world today where a Jew owns.
But does that exonerate them?
Okay.
Does it
blacks not having slaves today? Do blacks not having slaves today exonerate the previous blacks or the current blacks in Africa who currently have slaves?
The problem, Asher, you want blacks to convert to being being a Jew, but you don't want to face the real questions about being.
There's nothing to face because you acknowledge that Jews don't have slaves nowadays.
There's nothing to face. They never had slaves.
Okay,
they didn't have
about
slaves?
The past. You're talking about the past, and I'm even talking about the present. That blacks.
So wait a minute, Asher. White Jews could remember their history and stand on the belief.
What's going to do with white?
Let me finish. Let me just finish.
You're saying the word white.
White Jews, for the distinction, white Jews can remember their history, can say that they are Jews. Netanyahu got up in the UN and said, "We are the children of Israel from the seed of David." Right. He went back 1,000 years and said that they were of the seed of David and that Israel had a right to exist. This is the head of the state of Israel that came out and said this, and he went into what he believed is
he's not religious. He's not religious. So it's an ethnic claim, not a religious one.
Religious or not, he was able to go into his history, Asher. So my question is simple to you. My question is
simple. Well, you keep changing it.
It is simple. Here's why it's simple. Because
I'm talking about a religion, or you're talking about, because I never really encouraged anyone to become anything. Hold on.
I'm gonna make it simple.
dealing with the religion.
Let's deal with the religion.
Lumping it in with white supremacy.
Deal with the religion. Okay. Did religious Jews have slaves?
Did religious Jews have slaves? I'm sure they did.
Of course they did. My question then is this, Asher. If those religious Jews and those religious scholars that had slaves could not see the evil they were doing when they had the Torah then, why should we believe that converting to Judaism means that they will not practice the same evil racism that they practiced on us back then?
Please let me respond. Please let me respond.
Sitting there with the Passover. Go, Asher, go.
Okay, all right.
Go.
Okay, so the average slave owner in America was also a Christian.
Wait,
hold on, please let me respond. Let me respond. Please.
Tell me about those
studied
Jews.
The same Bible that you study. Now, how can you claim to believe in that same New Testament that told you about Jesus, because you didn't come to know about Jesus because you were a Jew? You came to know about Jesus because you were first a Christian, right? But that same book was held dear by other slave traders, but in some way that doesn't disqualify that book in your eyes, but only because a Jew may have held a slave or owned a plantation, that in some way should break my theology. I mean, we're not using equal scales here. I mean, it's not even rational, your argument. You acknowledge there's blacks today that own slaves. Now, am I going to lump every black individual in it with that garbage who chooses to own someone else? Don't forget, it was Jews that were the biggest abolitionists in this country, who stood side by side. Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement, the KKK was resurrected to fight blacks and Jews. So please, perhaps you need a history lesson.
Maybe you need a history.
Okay, no, well, I'm sorry.
Maybe you need a history lesson because while those abolitionists were doing the things that they were doing, many white Jews were still also illegally enforcing slavery from the South all the way to the North. And more importantly, here's why it's important, Asher. You're dismissing this. And here's what you're dismissing. We're talking about the belief that you believe in other white Jews. Mashak, if you could kill that background music for me. If you could. We're talking about the belief that you and other religious Jewish people believe in. Now, these Jewish people had this book, had the Torah, had the stories.
Just like Christians had the Bible. Christians had the New Testament.
Can I finish, Asher? Can I finish?
You're reiterating the same thing you said. Christians also had your Bible. Your Bible.
I'm not talking to a Christian. I'm talking to a converted Jew. I'm not talking to a Christian. If I was talking to a Christian, I would cut a Christian on the things that Christians have done
Christian.
that were hypocritical.
You have the same Bible.
That means I would cut a Christian on the hypocritical things that Christians do. I would cut about
your Bible.
I would cut
your
a
Bible was held dear by people who had slaves.
So now, all I'm asking, Asher, I'm talking to a converted Jew. I'm not talking to a Christian. I'm talking to.
It doesn't matter. You're the Christian. You believe in the same book that Christians hold dear, and those Christians were slave owners.
Now, you're
what does that have to do with your religion? Nothing. It has nothing to do with your religion.
Asher, simple question. Those Jews.
Why is everything about race?
Here's why. Here's why, Asher.
Let's deal with the Bible, okay?
Let's
deal with Scripture, please.
Rabbi Asher, can I please speak now? And I'm going to give you the floor back. Can I please speak? Here's why it matters. Because black people, Asher, after 400 years of oppression and white supremacy, black people have to be very careful before they sign on to some religion. Black people have to be very careful that once they sign up for some religion, that they don't end up some type of economic slaves under the people whose religion they join. Now,
you sold yourselves into slavery, so please don't blame that on white people.
Asher, you said you was going to let me talk.
Okay.
Now here we go. We're talking to a converted Jewish person. Now, what all I'm saying is, how is it that black people who served so much slavery in so many countries under white Jews,
whites were also slaves,
who had the Torah, who had the Bible, they were not enslaved by us, who had the Bible, who had the Torah, who still did not read enough in the Torah to know not to enslave us? Why would we be so dumb to turn around and to convert to that same religion, especially knowing that a whole section of that community has oppressed us in the music industry, oppressed us in the movie industry? That
sounds like you're preaching now. You're preaching. I mean, no, please. This is a okay.
I'm asking him a simple question. Why would we convert? Why would we convert? Why would we convert to something like that? And Asher,
can I respond, please? Let me speak.
Last quick point. Asher, last quick point. I'm giving it to you. Asher, here's what's so sad about it. What's so sad about it is, as I question you about it, not only do I not get an apology for those things, not only do I not get even an acknowledgement that those things have transpired, instead, you know what I get? I get diversion. I say white Jews had blacks in slavery, blacks had blacks in slavery. I say white Jews did this, white Jews killed blacks, blacks killed blacks. I say white Jews have oppressed Palestinians. I get black people oppressed other black people. Right. I don't get from you what every black person is looking for, and is why we would never, ever, and should never, ever convert to white Judaism. And that is because you can't, one, acknowledge your mistakes, and two, you can't even clearly define the path that means that we will not end up your slave. And Asher, let me tell you one, and I'm done. Asher, here's what you need to know. God is looking down from heaven, and he has watched those white Jews enslave blacks along with the rest of the world. And for 400 years, blacks have suffered this oppression, even as it is to this day. And let me tell you something. In the future, God is going to come down, and he's going to reestablish this kingdom. And he is going to not choose you white, racist, bloodthirsty, disgusting white Jews. Instead, he's going to choose
that's okay.
And he's going to raise them up.
Here, please,
Asher,
look.
You know what? You and I can't stop it, Asher.
No, first of all, I'm not going to tolerate you calling me disgusting. I've been nothing but respectful to. Okay, you said okay. I never called your group disgusting.
Don't get upset, Asher. We just talked. It's only words.
Yeah, but please.
Don't get upset. Now you're emotional. You said we're emotional. Look at you. You're getting all emotional. Come on, man.
This is silly.
Come on, get into this fight.
All right, so I'm about to end this discussion.
Why would you end it, Asher? Because I'm discrediting the fact that we shouldn't convert.
Because you're way too emotional. I mean, you're definitely way too emotional.
That's really why, Asher. That's why you want to.
You're emotional, and you're not letting me speak.
You got the floor.
Okay.
I don't want you to leave. I want you to
if I could, when Asher done, when you're done, Asher.
Yes, I'm gonna let y'all in. I'm supposed to be handling this other thing at the same time anyway. Jump in, y'all. Let Asher get in. Please give Asher some time. He's a little hurt now. So give him a little few minutes.
Okay. All right. What's a good? I'm so happy this is being recorded because. Anyways, I'll tell you at the end. Anyways, I don't speak for white Jewry. I try to speak for Torah. I try to spread biblical values. I don't expect you to forgive what every injustice blacks like white Jews may have committed against blacks. Just like I don't expect you to apologize for every crime that a black committed against a Jew. I understand that you're defending your belief system and I'm defending my belief system. Now, my point earlier was that slave owners in America were typically Christian. Christians follow the New Testament, the 27 books of the New Testament, just like you follow those same books. Now, I would never think that you would try to own slaves just because slave owners in America believed in your 27 books of the Bible. You held the same source material. I'm not going to judge you because of what they did, but I guess you don't offer me that courtesy. Okay, now, I would say that the biggest oppressor of the black man in America is other black men. It's more likely that a black man gets killed by another black man than a white man in this country. Now, these are just facts, right? And now, I thought this discussion was going to be a biblical discussion, right, of me trying to dismember your ideology, which, I mean, this is what I do. I debate. You could go to my channel, TorahJudaism.com. I haven't mentioned it, right? TorahJudaism.com. I have many debates with people discussing the Bible. Now, I'm happy to discuss the Bible. I really don't like discussing race because my ideology is not race-based. My religion is colorblind by the simple fact that we welcome people to convert to Judaism. Now, you consider me a Hebrew already because I happen to be from Colombia and I'm Hispanic, but you won't encourage a white person to do away with the racism that you think he holds in his heart and embrace your ideology. You think that he's irredeemable because of the color of his skin. Now, how is that not racism? That for sure is black supremacy. Now, if the issue is being a supremacist, like walking around thinking that blacks or your group is supreme, then why point your finger at us, right? At us as Torah-keeping Jews who are willing to embrace anyone. Now, I can't speak for what every other Jew does, but our Torah tells us that anyone who accepts those commandments, just like the Hebrews and the mixed multitude accepted the commandments on Mount Sinai, they're in a covenant with God and they're special to God. And we have a mitzvah in the Torah, V'afta l'recha kamocha, to love your fellow as yourself, i.e. someone in that covenant with God. He's your brother. We don't separate because of lack of melanin, but because of behavior and belief. Right? I'm trying to see where we could possibly agree on, but we're not moral equivalents. Absolutely not. You are immoral, and I'm a Torah-keeping Jew.
Asher, let me ask you this question, all right?
Mm-hmm.
You said you want us to convert to what you believe in your Judaism, right? But when we do history, right?
First off, you said it.
No, listen. You said it. You want us to believe in what you believe in, right?
I never mentioned that in the show. You mentioned it, and I agreed. For sure. I want you to convert.
God,
give me a second.
The purpose of this discussion that wasn't for me to convert you to Judaism. Okay,
are you trying to say that white Jews are not separatists? Do not separate from everybody that in every country that they're in? How
based on
dare
values?
you?
Based
Say
on
that again?
values. Based
Say
on
again?
values.
Hey,
Based on values. By the simple
that is
fact that you
such-
could convert to Judaism, it
such a
shows that
lie.
it's not racial.
That is such a lie. You
Well,
have
so
huge
Ethiopian
groups.
Jews.
You have huge groups of
Ethiopian
white
Jews
Jews who only believe that white Jews are chosen, and you know
nonsense.
that they separate
That's nonsense.
themselves.
No, that's
You
nonsense.
know that they separate themselves. You
That's
mean to
nonsense.
tell me? You're telling me out of every ethnic group in America, you're telling me that Jews do not separate themselves from everybody else more than any other ethnic group in America?
No.
Right.
Not that anymore, but it's based on values.
You're trying to say we're the racist?
Don't you separate based on values as well?
We don't have the power to be racist like white people, especially white Jews.
Don't you separate based on values as well?
We separate based on ethnicities like any ethnicity. I wouldn't call it.
So we don't separate based on ethnicity, by the way.
I wouldn't call a Japanese a Chinese, and I wouldn't call a Chinese a Russian.
Right.
A religious Jew has nothing in common with a secular Jew.
I wouldn't call him any of those things. But I would call a real Hebrew Israelite what he really is.
That's
a
right.
descendant of the Hebrew Israelites. That's not
That's
racist.
All right,
But
so
what
blood
you
for us
do-
is completely
But what
insignificant.
you do is racist. Because the minute you get in that power, the minute you're in power to be a racist, white Jews carry out their racism with the power that they have.
This is what
You
you
do it
believe,
every day.
but this is not
Let me ask
accurate.
you- Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
It's funny.
You want
I'm encouraging you to become Jewish, and I didn't come here to encourage anyone.
Listen,
You started off attacking the Proud Boys and this and that. But for sure, I would like you to convert to Judaism.
You're
Okay?
encouraging blacks to
How
become
am I a white
Jewish.
supremacist or endorsing white supremacy? It
Here's
makes no
how.
sense.
Here's how.
That's
You're
your only argument, to call everything
here's how,
racist. This is
Asher.
why you
You're
will never
encouraging
progress
blacks to-
as
you're
a group.
encouraging
You
blacks
understand?
to become
You're a
Jews.
victim.
And
Okay?
if you're
You have a
encouraging
victim
blacks to
ideology.
become Jews, you're not acknowledging the white supremacy of Jews. Let me ask you a question. Do not Jews who
You're
practice
asking these trivial questions, these non sequiturs.
our lives,
please,
our lives
let's
are
deal with
trivial?
something like
The
scripture, something we
oppression
can
of
both
black
agree
people
on.
is trivial, Asher. Slavery that we suffered is trivial. You see
What does
white
that have to do
supremacy?
with my
Now white
religion?
supremacy
What does that
coming
have to
out
do
of
with my religion? Or what does that
Here's
have to
what
do
it
with me
does.
being a Proud Boy?
Here's what it has to
Please.
do. Asher, here's what it has to do.
Mhm.
It has to do with your ability to show us that your religion would be fair to us. You're the one that wants blacks to convert. But yet, when we examine your religion, you claim it to be inclusive. You claim it to have, allow all people in it. But what you
At
don't
least I claim
acknowledge-
it.
You don't.
You don't even
acknowledge
do
the
that.
history. You
don't even claim
acknowledge
it. Wait, hold on
the
one
history of it
second.
being a white
At least I'm
supremacist
able to claim
organization.
it.
But
You can't even
claiming
claim it. Hold
means
on,
nothing.
please. Okay.
Claiming it means nothing if
Okay.
if
You
your
can't even claim
actions
it
are white
because
Right.
from the outset,
let me ask you a question.
your
Asher.
religion, your ideology
ask you
is
a simple
black
question.
supremacist.
A simple question,
How are you
Asher.
going to call me a white supremacist? It's so
White-
silly.
I'll
It's
tell
so
you how.
backwards.
White
You're
Jews-
so
white
primitive.
Jews-
You understand?
white
This is why
Jews
nobody takes you
who
seriously.
practice
Because
the
you,
Torah. We're talking
Okay,
religion.
please.
White Jews that practice the Torah, Asher.
all right.
On the Sabbath, do they not in certain white Jewish groups
Mhm.
have blacks do the chores and the things that they cannot do on the Sabbath?
Right.
Isn't that true?
Not
Isn't that
particularly.
true?
Okay, not specifically black people.
Well, whoever they hire, let's say whoever they hire, they do have people who are non-religious white Jews practice things that they cannot do according to the Torah. Am I right?
It's funny because you have that same ideology. You said the law and the commandments are only for Jews. Hold on one second.
Answer a simple
Don't
question.
you believe? Okay, no.
Why do you
Well, I
keep trying to
answered.
spin it? It's almost like you don't
Jews do
want
not target
scrutiny.
black people to work for them on the
I'm not
Sabbath.
saying they're targeting them. I never said that.
Okay.
I never said they targeted them. I'm asking a simple question, Asher.
Okay.
Do
I'll
white
give you a simple
do
answer.
white Jews,
Okay, it has nothing to do with white.
Let-
Sephardic Middle Eastern Jews do the same
Sephardic,
thing.
Ashkenazi, whatever you want to call
Okay,
them,
but
do
not
they-
specifically
do
white.
they or
Even
do they
Ethiopian.
do they or
Ethiopian
do they
Jews.
not
Okay, please
hire-
let me respond. Okay,
But
you know what?
Do they? Yes, sir. It's a
I'm
simple
ending this
question.
interview. Okay, just let me
Why?
respond. Please let me
Why?
talk.
Why is it? Why isn't it that
Okay,
you can't respond?
please
to
let
that?
me talk. Okay, I want to
Do they?
respond. Can I respond?
Please.
Okay. This is, I think, our third or fourth discussion. You acknowledge that there are certain things that Jews are not allowed to do. Torah-keeping Jews who have accepted these commandments are not allowed to do certain things on the Sabbath. Laws that don't apply to Gentiles. You believe that the Torah is for the children of Israel. That means it doesn't necessarily apply, at least the ceremonial portions don't apply to Gentiles. So if a Jew who needs, let's say, insulin asks a non-Jew, like whether he's Asian, white, black, whoever, to do it for him, ask him. I mean, how is that a form of white supremacy?
Here's how. Because Asher, isn't it, first let's start with just the breaking of the law and how evil it is. Isn't it an evil thing for you to follow the Torah, but to teach people that work for you, that have to rely on you for their survival because you're their boss? Isn't it evil to encourage and push them to do things that are against God's law? Isn't that wrong? And if you include all people, isn't it wrong couldn't some of those people unwittingly be Jews or become converts later on, as you would like? Isn't it wrong to have them doing things that are against the law? Isn't that wrong?
Please, you just have to answer.
Please answer that, Asher.
Just ask me one time.
Please,
okay? You're asking me the same question 10 times.
Please answer that, Asher.
So, according to Jewish law, that is not allowed. Okay, it's not allowed to ask someone to do something that many times would be considered trivial. I disagree with what Jews do, trying to get a Gentile to do a trivial matter that is not really necessary to be done on the Sabbath. Okay, however, there's many Jews who disagree. Okay, and
they do it, and they do it.
So my community doesn't do that,
but they do it.
Okay. There are some Jews that do that, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, no, wait, hold on. But there are examples in the Bible of these things being done. For example, it says that an animal that's a treifa that's torn in the field or that dies on its own, you can't eat it, but you can give it to a Gentile to eat. What's this notion that only because there's a law for Israel that a Gentile can not in some way benefit, because in this sense is a benefit because these Gentiles are paid after the Sabbath for their services, right? They're not coerced to do this, but like you said, people are working, right? It's not anti the Bible. I mean, you're making it sound like it's disgusting. Perhaps you're not familiar with the narrative in Scripture that most ceremonial laws are only for Jews, and in certain cases, a Gentile who's residing amongst Israel is allowed to live by a different law. I mean, that's just in the Bible.
And of course, the only part in the Bible that is correct is the part about the torn meat. All of the other acts that go on, God specifically said.
All right, so you acknowledge.
Specifically, let me finish, Asher.
You acknowledge that it happens in the Bible.
I let you speak. I acknowledge that the torn flesh happened in the Bible. The Bible did not say anything concerning all of the other laws that white Jews have blacks do, and do not say that they are not intimidated and cajoled and pressured to do. Many times they're not even hired unless they understand that they have to do these things on the Sabbath. Okay, many times they understand that. So what I'm saying,
I'm not endorsing the act. I'm just telling you.
I know you're not endorsing it. I know
essence is there. I have tons of videos. It's called the Shabbos Goy.
I wish you speak. I wish you would let me speak. Right. I'm not endorsing it at you, but you do have to recognize that if you want blacks to convert to Judaism, instead of standing with us, the Hebrew Israelites by bloodline, you are asking blacks to join a religious network or religious set of groups that will, in fact, pressure them to break God's law.
No.
Serve God's law.
I told you that.
What you're going to call them to
minorities or blacks are not specifically targeted for anything. Well, they'll ask a white person this. The understanding was that Elvis Presley was also a Shabbos Goy. I mean, it has nothing to do with blacks. Now, it's true. In New York, New York City, there's a lot of Jews.
Thousands of black people that work for rich and wealthy Jewish families.
We have thousands of Jews happen to live.
And here's the thing, Asher. Let me give you a small example, right? Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. Okay, a registered nurse is on the floor. It's Friday. It's the Sabbath service has come in. It's in the full Sabbath, and two nurses' aides come. This is a true story. Okay, 2 nurses' aides run into her office. The registered nurse is black. The nurses' aides are black. The patient is Jewish. The nurses are upset. The aides are upset because the Jewish patient is asking them, or more, arguing with them because she wants them.
I can't verify this incident. First of all, you're talking about one incident. I'm telling you,
you can't verify.
Okay, if that black nurse told the Jew, "I'm Jewish,"
let me finish it.
Okay,
Asher, and I'll tell you, I can verify.
You're making it racial. I just told you blacks don't target. Jews don't target blacks.
I'm not saying they targeted blacks, Asher. I never said that.
You're making it racial.
I never said
it's not racial.
I'm not making
you don't have an argument.
We're talking about people making non-Jews, and in our case specifically blacks and Latinos, because that's who we deal with, but this could apply to any non-Jew. But I'm just acknowledging this particular matter because blacks were involved. So my point is this: these nurses' aides were upset because the white Jewish woman that was a patient wanted them to change her monthly pad, her maxi pad, because it was the Sabbath. And she said that she could not change her own maxi pad because it was the Sabbath.
Okay,
and they
that's
came
silly.
to the registered nurse. And they came to the registered nurse, and the registered nurse said that they do not.
You're making this up. I mean, because this is not a prohibition on what to be done on the Sabbath. Okay, you're telling me Jews.
The Lord bear.
Okay, that's silly. That's
silly. You know why I know this story to be true, Asher? Because the registered nurse was my wife. That's how I know the story to be true, Asher.
All right, so find me somewhere in Jewish law where it says that a woman. Okay. So then she must have told you the story wrong.
Asher,
okay, that's inaccurate. There's no law that a woman can't change her maxi pad
Asher,
on the
you
Sabbath.
said you was gonna let me talk. I let you talk. Now you won't let me talk. Like you get emotional the minute I hit a nerve.
You've been talking the majority of the time.
I'm giving it back to you. I'm just making a last point. If you hadn't interrupted me, I'd have been done a minute ago. All I'm saying, Asher, is this: that
I have to go in 5 minutes.
You're asking blacks and Latinos to convert to Judaism. And you're part of a whole network of Jews that exercise oppression and in many cases straight out racism against blacks and Latinos. And they do it all the time. They did it in the neighborhood in Jersey where the killing took place. They did it in Crown Heights. They do it in Williamsburg. They do it in Hollywood. Hell, you guys, white Jews were the first gangsters, man. Meyer Lansky and Rothstein and the rest of them. They created.
These aren't religious Jews, man. These aren't religious Jews.
But they were religious dudes.
It's funny.
Rothstein was buried in a full-fledged Jewish funeral and had a prominent rabbi speak his eulogy. He kept the Sabbath. He kept the law.
Kept the Sabbath?
Yes, he did all these.
I mean, how can he keep the Sabbath?
And just because
he worked in casinos, perhaps you don't know the story of Sam Rothstein.
He took over black clubs, Asher. He murdered black people for their numbers games. He murdered black people to take over their clubs. He murdered black people to extort them in so many ways. And yet you want
what does that have to do with religious jewelry?
Because here's why.
I thought you were going to let me speak.
I am. You asking a question. I'm giving you a quick answer. Because it appears, Asher, in both Hollywood, in both everyday life, in slavery, in our workforce, in education, it seems that your white Jewish religion follows a pattern. That pattern always ends up in some oppressive way. And all I'm saying
going to have to be my last words.
And all I'm saying is that to convert to that religion is insane for black people to do. You got the floor, Asher. I don't want you to leave. I want you to have a fair shake in this conversation. Go ahead, Asher. You got the floor.
So from the beginning,
y'all off. Let Asher speak.
Before I came on the show, I told the guy that I was just gonna be here till 10:25 because I have a class that I'm giving. So it's but I mean I do feel that this hour and a half has been a waste of time. I just want to tell people listening, that they have to break free from this black liberation theology, that everything it's racial. everything is racial. I mean, you have to get out of that mental plantation that you're on. Okay, times are different. Times are different here by the simple fact whether you have a non-black come on the show and welcome you to his belief system. I mean, by the simple fact, you have to remind white people that they're racist. Please let me speak, man.
Go ahead, Asher. Go ahead.
So you have to remind white people that they're racist nowadays, right? I mean, what kind of racism? What kind of racism is that? During the Holocaust, we don't remind
white people of their racism. Actually, we tell them about their
during
crime.
The Holocaust.
What's wrong with bringing up their crime?
Someone had to remind or convince a Nazi that he was a Nazi or that he was anti-Jewish. Of course not. They would acknowledge it. During Jim Crow, during slavery, during the transatlantic slave trade, people would acknowledge that they were white supremacists. But now,
who built them ships in the transatlantic slave trade?
Who sold the slaves during the transatlantic slave trade? Okay, it was blacks in Africa. Look, you don't even know your history. Okay, please, you are your biggest enemy.
That transported slaves.
Do you know that more blacks came to this country willingly than were ever brought over by slaves? You know why? Because you're privileged.
Which really ain't theirs, it's ours. They built them ships, and they got paid off them ships. They built their
Muhammad Ali.
So don't tell me you don't know history.
In the famous
That's right, sir.
You don't know
Rumble
history.
in the Jungle said that he was so glad that his great-great-grandfather was sold into slavery and brought to America, then stayed back in Africa. In other words, this is a great country, and it's been great to all of you, and you're just a bunch of ingrates. No, that's what it is. You're a bunch of ingrates.
We should be like Muhammad Ali and be thankful that we were put into slavery. Are you saying we should be like Muhammad Ali?
He sold other blacks to slavery.
Answer that.
No.
Come on, Asher.
What Muhammad Ali was trying to say, because I'm pretty sure you won't think that he's an Uncle Tom, was that blacks have to be grateful for how far they've come in race relations in this country. And if you don't see it, you're an ingrate, okay? Because there is no such thing as systemic racism in this country.
You can't join your religion.
That's right.
You can't join your religion, Asher, because your religion is such a white supremacist religion.
My religion is made up of having the right attitude and having gratitude.
Entire identity.
And you have
neither.
Have
the nerve to frame your lips to say that black people should be thankful.
You should be thankful that you're in this country. Okay. All right, so go back to Africa. All right.
Say that again. Say that again.
Why didn't you then go back to Africa? Like, if you're not grateful for being in this country,
we built this country.
Why don't white people
built
an imperfect country? Like, if you think
wait a minute, why don't white people go back to the caves, Asher? Why they don't go back to the caves?
The white people aren't complaining. You're the ones complaining.
We're not complaining, Asher. Why is it? Why is it a complaint when black people bring up crimes? I don't understand that. White Jewish, the state of Israel still chases down Nazis to this day and brings them to justice in The Hague. Nobody says to them, "Oh, stop complaining about what happened with the Nazis." They bring them to justice. They don't care if they're 100 years old. They bring them to justice, Asher. Why can't black people tell you about your crimes, especially, Asher, especially when we tell you about them and you dismiss them?
Targeting a Nazi who happens to be living in Argentina is not the same thing as labeling all white people as white supremacists.
You've been dismissing those crimes. You've been dismissing them
Anyways,
all
I have
night.
to go.
You've been spinning them and saying black people do it. You've been spinning them and saying that it also went on in other white groups.
As much as this whole discussion has been full of ad hominem attacks, I would love to have a biblical discussion on how your theology is inferior.
We are talking theology.
No, I would love to discuss the Bible because virtually everything we discuss about the Bible, it seems like you don't know your Bible.
With black people in chains, they were raping young black women. They were impregnating young black women and then sitting down to the Passover Seder.
Interesting.
What are
you know how many Jews died fighting for the North? Okay, white individuals, and I'm not white, but just to be accurate. How many white people died in this country during the Civil War because of the sin of slavery?
And white Jewish people, Asher, are still keeping
white people in this country have exonerated themselves.
A full apartheid going in the state of Israel. Tell me I'm lying.
I have to go.
Tell me I'm lying, Asher. I don't want
TorahJudaism.com. TorahJudaism.com.
I'm not lying, Asher.
And
White people are still
ProudBoysUSA.com.
holding white supremacy. Let me read something for you. Can I read one small thing? Let me read
I have
this.
to go because I'm not going to have a chance to respond. So
you are going to have a chance. Come on, hang with me a second, Asher.
No, I have to go because I have a class at 10:30. Here, look.
Let me tell you something.
TorahJudaism.com.
Have you heard of Stan
becoming a Proud Goy?
Have you heard of Stan Mervis's book that came out last year?
No.
Stan Mervis is a scholar, okay, from Yale University. Yale University Press just published his book. It's called Jews of the 18th Century. It's called Jews of the 18th Century Jamaica. And here's what he said. Now, this is a scholar. Here's what he said. He said the Jewish population in Jamaica was greater